My name is Aaron Lopresti. I've been a comic book artist, a commercial illustrator, and a writer for over 25 years. And this is my YouTube channel.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Talking Comics and Art with Aaron Lopresti. I am, of course, Aaron Lopresti. This is going to be part 2 of my series of videos chronicling my painting of the Kit Carter movie poster, which you'll be able to find as a add-on purchase on the Kit Carter Planet Doom graphic novel campaign site on Indiegogo. You'll find the link in the description of this video if you'd like to go there and check it out. In the first video, we basically just showed the basics of taking the drawing and transferring it on to the canvas. Now we're going to do what I call inking the image, and let's take a look right now and get right into it. All right, as you can see, this is a pretty big canvas here, at least to fit on this camera, at least where I have it stationed at. But you'll see it's halfway inked, we'll call it. More accurately, what I've done is I've taken acrylic paint and gone over this much like I would if I was inking it. I'm using burnt sienna. And essentially what I'm doing is, I'll do a little demo here, is I'm watering down my acrylic paint so that it's very similar in consistency to maybe a watercolor. Maybe a little heavier than that, but I want it to flow real. I don't want it too thick, because if it gets thick, then it'll give me a dry brush effect over, and that's not what I'm looking for. What I want to do is just seal these pencil lines, or actually charcoal is what they are. And I want to seal them so that they don't smear and I don't lose the image as I'm painting. I'll use this as a map and a guide when I'm actually painting the piece. So I know what I'm painting and my different shapes. I'm not really going to establish values. I'm just outlining. Now, because this charcoal that I used here in the transfer process doesn't really stick well to this canvas, and it smears super easy. So I'm going to work from, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to work from right to left so that I'm inking everything this direction, so that by the time I get over on the left-hand side and my arm is resting on this, it'll all be inked in acrylic, which is waterproof, and it's not going to smear or anything. So by inking, I'm really just outlining the line work. And where I have put in shadows, like here, I'll go ahead and fill those in. And that way I'll know that they're supposed to be there when I start painting. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll go ahead and ink Kit here. And not the whole thing. I don't want to put you to sleep, but at least give you an idea of what I'm doing. And again, why I'm doing it. I would do the same thing if I was doing an oil painting. In fact, this is what I used to do all the time. And I think I got this from Boris Vallejo, going in with the sepia tone, or, some colored, depending on, what the effect you want. Going with some acrylic paint go over the line work so you won't lose it when you actually start painting. Now, I'm not painting in oils, I'm painting in acrylics. But again, these are permanent, they are waterproof. So when I start laying heavier acrylic paint over this, it's not going to smear or anything. And so it is kind of a pain in the butt, but it's extremely helpful in the long run. And you'll see when I go over this with my underpainting that how valuable doing this is. And I suppose some people might spray this, some sort of fixative to keep it from bleeding, and just use the pencil. But I don't know what that's going to do to the surface of the canvas. And because I'm trying to create the kind of effect of a 1950s or maybe a mid 1960s movie poster, I want texture in there that I'm going to get from this canvas. I assume a lot of people would probably paint on illustration board, but then you're not going to get that sort of built-in texture that you get from this canvas. And I really want some of that to sort of come through in the final painting. But again, that's going to depend really on how heavy I lay in my layers of color. But I know there's going to be, especially in the background, you're going to see some of this canvas texture shine through, which is exactly what I want, to kind of make it feel more old school. And so that's essentially what I did here, is just with burnt sienna, I just went in and inked that little tiny figure. And that's what I've been doing here, so you can see. And it doesn't matter how dark it is in some areas or how compared to how light it is in some other areas, because this is not going to be part of the painting. It's just an underpainting to sort of establish what I want to do with when I start actual painting. And so I'm going to paint over the top of this. Maybe a little bit of it might, color-wise might show through a bit on some of the thinner spots, but if that happens, I'll, if I like it, I'll leave it. If I don't, I'll take heavier paint and go over it. But this is kind of a tedious part of the process. The first being transferring the drawing onto the canvas, and then doing this. This is why I don't like to ink my own stuff generally. And I've been doing it obviously on Wraith of God, but because inking to me is like, I drew it once and now I'm drawing it again. Now you can bring something to the table, obviously, as an inker that makes it, something more interesting than just tracing the lines. But at this particular thing, I am essentially just tracing the lines. I'm not adding any, line work that you might see in a comic book, because I'm not going to be painting in line work. I'm just going to be painting in shapes. And, all the little line works that we get used to in comic books are irrelevant in what I'm doing here. So again, we're just sort of outlining this like, like a coloring book. And the thing about this I find kind of interesting, I just thought about this today, is that when you do something like this, when you're painting, I hesitate to call this painting. I mean, clearly I am using paint and a brush, so I am technically painting, but I look at it more as an illustration, a color illustration. You know, when you see a painter, when I think of painting as someone just going alla prima on a canvas and you draw with the paintbrush and then you paint in, you don't, this almost becomes like paint by numbers, right? Where you have this really defined areas and shapes and you know exactly what you're going to do before you do it. You know, like you do a little color study, which I've already done. And so you know color-wise what you're going to do before you do it. Whereas, you know, painters oftentimes, you know, alla prima painters will just kind of go in. I mean, they obviously know what they're going to do or have a good idea of what they want to do color-wise, but they do all their work on the board. A good color illustration, you're doing all your work before you get on the board so that you can control exactly what it looks like. And that's more of a commercial art approach than it is a fine art approach. But like I said, technically I am using paint and a brush. So I guess you could say that technically this is a painting. Although, like I said, I look at it more as a color illustration, but I'd be curious what how a fine artist might respond to what I'm doing. I forgot my little pouch here, her belt and her gun holster. So I'm just going to paint that in over the top. And again, this leg line through here is not that big a deal because I'll just be painting over it anyway. So, but it gives me an idea, pretty clear idea of, you know, the shape and everything that I want to do. And then I will continue to do this over the monster, putting in some details, but not going crazy. I'll leave some of that for the painting. And then I'll move over to do Kit's figure here. Finish this up. And then we'll get over to this side, which will be Lord Menace. Big head there. So again, you can see what the finished pretty much looks like. And this is what the whole painting will look like. And I'll post a picture of this on social media when I'm completely done with the inking portion of this. But there you go. That's going to be part 2 of my little short painting videos. And we'll take this all the way through to the very end. And you guys can see the process and learn with me as I continue to learn and grow as a painter. But I'm excited to dig into this and get the sort of tedious stuff out of the way. So thanks for joining me. Keep your eyes open for the next process video that'll be coming soon, no doubt. And I would like to alert you all to the fact that I do have a campaign called Kit Carter Planet Doom. It's a graphic novel. One of the items you can purchase with the graphic novel is this very movie poster that I'm working on right now. If you go to the campaign, you'll see the color study and a mock-up of what the poster will look like with a color study as the artwork. But this will be the final artwork. It'll actually be on the poster that we're working on right here. So anyway, go check that out if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much, and we'll see you next time right here.